Do you struggle with writing? Does it take you forever to get words down on the page? And once you finally get those words down, you relentlessly hear the inner critic inside your head, tearing everything apart. Do you compare yourself to others? You see how others write and you think, why does it seem so easy for them and it's so hard for me? Why does it seem so effortless for other writers? What is going on? If writing always feels like a battle for you and it always feels torturous and painful, it's not that something's wrong with you. It's that you are dealing with writing anxiety. And when writing anxiety takes this sort of form where every single word feels like a battle, we know we're dealing with a deeply rooted problem that can hold back writers for years. And that problem is perfectionism. Hi everyone. Today I'm talking about perfectionism. Perfectionism is a problem I see in writers all the time. It's probably one of the number one problems my clients and students deal with. What most writers who are struggling with perfectionism don't know is that they're actually dealing with a form of writing anxiety, but they usually blame themselves for this. Perfectionism is nearly always seen as a bad habit that needs to be conquered, a flaw, a character flaw. Most writers are surprised and relieved to hear that it is not a character flaw. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It means that you are suffering from a very specific form of writing anxiety. And this is a type of anxiety that needs to be healed. It's not a problem to be fixed. It's something to be healed instead of that bad habit to be conquered, which is how we usually see it. This is so important to note the difference between what's a bad habit, what's a character flaw, and what's something to be healed. Because when we look at something as a bad habit or character flaw, we tend to see it as something bad or something negative. We are judging ourselves. And whenever we judge ourselves, even if we're not conscious of it, even if this is a program that's just running in the background, this tends to increase our anxiety and it creates a bigger block because we're blocking the energy flow. We're blocking the energy of healing. So instead of pushing ourselves harder to get over it, which is what I really see with a lot of writers who suffer from perfectionism, this pushing and forcing, because that is part of the temperament of writers who have perfectionism. They tend to be overachievers, they tend to strive very hard to get things done, they tend to have long to-do lists, and they really feel a sense of soothing from checking goals off the to-do list and from meeting goals and from getting things done. So when it comes to dealing with their perfectionism, when they realize, oh, this is actually a really big issue, this is causing me a lot of suffering, this is blocking me, they tend to approach it in the same way that they've approached everything else in their life. They're going to throw 110% of themselves at it, and they're going to make this super effort toward conquering it. So they're pushing, but they're not looking at the root cause, which is not feeling good enough in childhood. This is nearly always where perfectionism really comes from, is feeling like you were not worthy as a child, whether that was because your parents were hypercritical and they were never satisfied with anything you did, they were hypervigilant about what you were doing, or they were always comparing you to somebody else, a sibling or the neighbor's kids or the other kids in your church, whatever it was. But there was this constant comparison and judging going on. A lot of writers with perfectionism also have narcissistic parents. So the parents saw them as an extension of their own ego. And they were always, again, judging and criticizing and picking them apart. So this sets up this dynamic where you have to prove your worth in the household. And you have to prove your worth from a really young age. You have to pull your weight. And you're taught that you have to do this so that you will deserve love and attention. Love is always conditional. You don't just get love for being you. You have to pull your weight, earn your worth, show what you can do, and perform in order to get that love. We then carry that into adulthood, and it becomes a compulsion. It becomes this compulsion that we always need to be better. We're never good enough. We need to be perfect because in our mind we feel like, well, if I'm perfect, I finally solved it. I've attained the ideal and now I get the love that I needed. Now I get the approval. And that's when perfectionism really gets us in its grip. I'm going to be talking about this subject and so much more in my new workshop called Perfectionism, How to Heal Writing Anxiety. In this workshop, we're going to be looking at perfectionism not as a bad habit, not as something to be conquered, but as something that needs to be healed within us, as a form of anxiety that has a deeper root cause, and something that needs to be looked at and that we need to hold compassionate space for. So we're going to be going deep into those root causes so we can actually move forward into a better writing life and into a better life overall. Because almost every writer who suffers from perfectionism, it's not something that just affects your writing and your creativity. It almost always affects every single area of your life. So we're going to be looking at that as well. This workshop is happening Saturday, November 11th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. This workshop's only $25. I wanted to make this one super affordable because people who have really deep, severe perfectionism issues also tend to have issues with finances. They tend to have strained finances. And yes, we will be covering that and why that happens as well in this workshop. So I wanted to make this one really accessible to everyone who could possibly attend. It will also be recorded. So if you can't make it live, no problem. You don't need to be there live. It's always really fun to be at my workshops live, but you don't need to be there live. If you have other things going on, scheduling conflicts, you can register for this workshop and you'll get the recording within 24 to 48 hours. You can do it on your own. You will get just as much of the benefit. The link to register is below in the comments box. If you have questions, Lauren@laurensapala.com. I can always be reached there. You can also leave a comment on this video. I'd love to get the questions answered before registration closes. It will be closing Friday, November 10th, and then you won't be able to get in. So again, even if you don't think you can make it live, it is worth it to register and get that recording link so that you can have access to it later. Please also subscribe to my channel. I do videos on intuition, creativity, writing, perfectionism, procrastination, all sorts of different forms of writing anxiety. So please subscribe to my channel, and please also subscribe to my newsletter. That's where I send out all the notifications on new classes and courses. I always get this question, do you have a schedule of upcoming classes and courses? I don't have a schedule of upcoming classes and courses, but if you're on my newsletter, you will get the notifications of those as soon as they come out, and you will get all the links to register and all the links for scheduling. You'll also get book recommendations. I send out free classes a lot. I send out a lot of free resources. So please sign up for the newsletter to make sure you don't miss out on any of that. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in today. I'll see you next time.